Cruising is amazing. Obviously, I think so. You get to visit multiple destinations in one trip, all while only having to unpack once. But here's the thing, what are the downsides? Those port days, they're short. You've got a limited window of time to explore, experience sometimes a whole new country, and soak in a new place. And if you don't plan wisely, you might just miss out on some of the best parts. I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. And today I'm sharing my favorite insider tips on how to maximize your cruise stops, including how to find real cultural immersion, yes, in just one day, how to plan independently, and how to avoid some common mistakes that can make or break your port day. And a little later on, I'll share my #1 strategy that totally changed the way that I experience ports. And it could change your cruise experience forever too. All right, let's dive right in. One of the biggest criticisms that you'll hear about cruising, and yes, I do hear this a lot, is that it's not real travel. People like to say things like, oh, you're just herded off the ship like cattle for a few hours, you eat some tourist food or hang out in a cruise port bar, and then you call it a day, get back on the ship. And you know what? That can't happen if you let it. And no judgment. If that's you, do you. Have fun. If you love to go to Cozumel and get off and you go to a cruise port bar and you just drink it up all day and listen to music and you get back on the ship, that's absolutely fine. I would never be one to judge or tell someone how to vacation. But if you do want to get that immersion, you don't have to let that be your experience. The key is being intentional about how you plan your time ashore. So when you're booking a cruise, most people, they think of the ship first. What's the ship, the pools, how many hot tubs are there, what shows do they have, what kind of dining is there? And don't get me wrong, I love a good sea day where you're spending the day on the ship enjoying those things. But if you also focus a little bit of time on your ports before you even set foot on the ship, you can turn a quick stop into a genuinely meaningful travel experience. Here's where the real magic starts, deciding how you want to explore. Now, this can be a hot button issue, and people sometimes that are frequent cruisers, they feel really strongly one way or the other. But if you're a newer cruiser, just understand that most cruise lines offer official shore excursions. So these are official excursions on port days that are hosted by the cruise lines. And sometimes, even for me, I'm firmly in the other camp, spoiler alert, but sometimes this is the way to go, especially if you're going to places where logistics are tricky, or especially if you're visiting somewhere that's really far from the port and you want that extra security and peace of mind to know that the ship will wait for you if you're delayed. In those circumstances, although I'm a big fan of doing things on my own, I will book a cruise line excursion. Also, if you're brand new to cruising, you've never done it before, I also strongly recommend, if you're doing an excursion, to book it through the cruise line. But once you get some experience under your belt and you learn the ropes, you'll quickly learn that cruise line excursions, they can be expensive. Not just that, my biggest issue is that they tend to feel overcrowded, you're rushed, you have to be at a certain spot at a certain time, there's no flexibility, and you're just kind of usually put into a bus or something with a bunch of strangers. And they're very one size fits all. I tend to have travel ADHD, so when I go to a cruise port destination, I like to see something. If it's not particularly interesting to me, I like to keep it moving. So when I'm stuck on a cruise ship excursion, it drives me crazy being forced to stay somewhere longer than I want to. That's the reason why a lot of more experienced cruisers, myself included, often look to independent excursions instead. These are those tours that you just book on your own. You either just venture out on your own or you directly book with a local company or a guide outside of the cruise line's offerings. And fun little secret, most of those cruise line official sponsored excursions, those are with those same tour companies and those same guides. They just contract with them as third-party vendors. Now, going independent, not only is this usually more affordable, sometimes significantly so, but you often get placed in a smaller group, or if you're like me, I'll pay extra to have a private experience. I always book a private driver. I'll give you information below. I have drivers at 8 port cities if you want to check it out yourself, because I like that privacy. I like that exclusivity. I like doing what I want to do, where I want to go, how I want to do it. But when you book independently, even if you're not going private, you generally get more personalized attention. And importantly, you get a real chance to engage with the local culture instead of just hopping on a bus and getting dropped off and getting back on in the same old restaurants and the same old gift shops. Now, my favorite thing about booking a private driver is that all of my drivers are locals. They're born and raised, in most cases, in their port cities. So I say to them, take me to the restaurants that you like to go to. Don't take me to the tourist traps. Don't take me to the places where all the cruise line bus people are gonna be, because I know they're gonna be crowded. I know they're gonna be probably overpriced, and they're probably not going to be as authentic. So I wanna know, what do you prefer? Are you a cruise line excursion type of person, or do you prefer to go independent? Or do you just like to get off the ship, grab a taxi, and wander wherever your interests take you that day? Now, regardless of your preferences, a little word of caution: if you do opt to book independently or go out and do your own thing, you do have to be careful with timing. Why? Because cruise line excursions are guaranteed. That's the big perk of them, and generally why they cost more money. That means if your tour is delayed for any reason, that ship will generally wait for you. And if they can't wait because it's an extended delay, they will pay to get you to the next port of call. So that is a big assurance for a lot of cruisers. But with independent tours, you're on your own. So always, and I mean always, book with reputable companies, read reviews, follow advice from trusted people, only use vendors that are coming from trusted people, and the most important thing is aim to be back to that port, or at least near it, at least an hour. My general rule is an hour and a half before that ship's final return time. And this is especially important because a lot of times ship time differs from port time or local time, and you can get really mixed up. Even a seasoned cruiser like me, I still get mixed up sometimes when it comes to keeping track of time and what time zone we're in. So always be mindful of that. And if you're a super anxious person and you're gonna be nervous going on your own, just pay extra and go with the cruise line excursion. But if you do it on your own, it does give you a little bit more of a chance for more immersion and more experiences that are authentic in that destination, at least in my opinion. But next, we're gonna talk about something that almost nobody does early enough, and it can absolutely change your whole experience. And that is planning ahead. I know for a lot of folks, especially those who are not type A, planning doesn't sound sexy. A lot of folks that I cruise with, they are very much not planners. They're go with the flow, spontaneous people. They like to just book a cruise and then go with whatever happens. But I promise you, showing up in port without a plan can be a recipe for stress, more stress than planning ahead, and wasted time. Why? Because the best excursions, especially the ones that might feel a little more authentic, the high quality ones, they often sell out long before your ship ever even leaves its home port. This can be things like private snorkeling trips, food tours or tasting experiences with local chefs, small group cultural tours, the absolute best local tour guides, the best private drivers. They book fast. As I mentioned, I have 8 private drivers I recommend. They stay booked. I've got some of them that are getting booked up into the next year. So if you want a great experience, you do have to do a little planning ahead. If you wait until you're on board the ship, you'll be left picking from the leftovers. And chances are it's gonna be a crowded bus tour, a very basic tour with 50 plus other people. Or if you just get off at the port with no plan at all, you're gonna end up wandering around the cruise terminal area, not really getting an experience in that city, and you're gonna be missing out on a lot. So before you cruise, I recommend spending at least a little bit of time researching each port. And a great tip, I love AI, I love ChatGPT. Even the free version now is really great at giving recommendations for even a basic walking itinerary around a lot of popular ports of call. And shameless plug, I have free port guides for most major cruise port destinations, at least from ports that we go to from the United States. So feel free to check those out at any time on my website, profmelissa.com. But at a bare minimum, even if you don't book anything, at least try to get the lay of the land. Figure out what's walkable from the ship. Is this a port where you really need to spend the money on an excursion? Because not all of them you need to. I'll just give you a couple of examples. If you love a good beach day, you want a free beach day, Grand Turk and the private islands like Half Moon Cay, Princess Cay, Perfect Day at Coco Cay, those are ones that you don't need to spend any money. You don't really have to plan ahead. If you want to spend the day at the beach, you get off the ship, you camp out at the beach, you have a good old time, you get back on the ship. But for other ports, it's worth looking into and figuring out what you want to do, or again, at least getting the lay of the land. Some ports are perfect for DIY walking tour. Others are better tackled with a guide. And there are others like Roatan where you can hire a private driver for the day to take you everywhere that those cruise line excursions are going to take you for about the same cost, but you get to do it on your own. And if you want to go somewhere special, they'll take you. If you want to stay somewhere longer, you can stay longer. You call the shots. So I always say, think of port planning like making a dinner reservation at a popular restaurant. If you just show up without one on a Friday night, you might get lucky, you might get bar seating, or you might get a 2-hour wait if you get a table at all. But if you plan ahead, you're much more likely to get a seat at the place that you want to be. Another big tip, if you want a more immersive experience, the kind of travel that can change you a little bit, look for activities that connect you with local life. Again, that can be booking a private driver that's actually a local who was born and raised in that port destination. It can be small group cooking classes. I'm a big fan of Airbnb experiences, or looking online and finding independent things that are hosted just by a local that lives there, and trying to go off the beaten path a little bit. But of course, always reading reviews and making sure it's something that is high quality and it's something that is reputable and safe, especially because I sometimes travel alone as a woman and we have to think about those things. But those moments, talking to people, eating the real food, not just the tourist trap food, seeing how people live. I love my private drivers because I ask them a million questions about their lives because I'm curious about it. This is how you learn about the culture, and these are those memories that you have long after the towel animals and the buffets of the cruise ship. And the best part, you don't have to do it for every port. Again, some cruise ports, they're great for a free beach day, or they're really great to walk around. Nassau, you don't really have to have an excursion. There's actually a lot of things within walking distance from the cruise port. But in some cases, like Belize, I strongly recommend having an excursion because there's not much to do at the terminal, and you kind of do need that structure. So planning ahead, reading things like my port guides, looking at research, going to Viator, TripAdvisor, the Facebook groups, just doing a little bit of research. Even if it's plugging it into ChatGPT, do it, you'll thank me later. And now, here is the number one thing, the strategy that changed everything for me. Especially, so if you're like me and you're kind of type A, you run at a rapid pace, you're go, 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 you're efficient, you gotta be mindful of this. Stop trying to do it all. I am the worst offender with this. But the worst mistake cruisers, including me, make is trying to cram too much into one day. Now, you can do a lot with a private driver. That's why I like a private driver. I can get a lot in one day. But if you try to pack in too much, it can really stress you out. You can end up being frazzled and worried and not really enjoying yourself. And honestly, when you do that, you can miss out on the soul of the place. So my recommendation is to go through, especially those ports that have a lot of things to do, and really focus on the one or maybe two intentional experiences that you really want to enjoy for that day. Leave some space for spontaneity, leave some space for wandering, leave room for that serendipitous moment where you stumble across a cafe and you're like, that looks good, or a quiet beach of, let's go check that out, or a street festival that maybe you didn't even know was going to be happening, because that is where the magic happens. So now I want to hear from you. What is your best strategy when it comes to doing a port day and doing it right, at least the way you like to do it? Are you a planner? Are you a go with the flow kind of person? Or are you somewhere in between? And if you have certain tips or strategies, feel free to drop those down in the comments. I love to chat with you about everything cruising. And again, don't forget, the best planning tool are those free port guides on my website. They cost you nothing, no strings attached, so check them out at profmelissa.com. Until next time, happy sailing.